I think that you and I, sometimes we take it for granted, but I think that you and I are in the midst of one of the most vibrant hubs of the world. And by that, I actually mean Atlanta. Say what you will about traffic. Say what you will about infrastructure issues, but when we look at this weekend and whose birth we celebrate, we bow down in great royalty and esteem for the life of Martin Luther King. When we look at, even in our own 5th Congressional District, that we have one of the greatest icons still serving, and still with a fortitude and a knowing and a resilience that sadly is missing in a great deal of our leadership in this country. And so that makes me stop and give pause for the fact that each and every one of us that are associated with this place, are we really taking that in? And are we really grateful? I've had many of my friends come to Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta over the years, and my favorite comment was from my friend Jeff, who long had gone to Agape as a professional photographer, and he left that Sunday and he said, "My God, you guys are Noah's Ark." He said, "I think I've seen it all, every demographic, every expression." And what I love, that was the best compliment that anybody could have ever said. We are the Noah's Ark of love and of willingness. And so I reflect on Martin Luther King Jr. in this weekend, and I think of the countless sermons and the pieces of prose that he has written, and I continue to have a favorite that never changes. And it is a piece called Letters from a Birmingham Jail. It was written in 1963 when he and some of his constituents have gone to Birmingham, which at the time was probably one of the most volatile cities in the country. And he had gone there missionally to bring equality and to stand up for civil rights and to do his work. And he was jailed for that. And sadly to him, his mission was demeaned by a region of ministers from that area. And so he felt as though his own colleagues did not understand him. And in that sadness, he took literal pen to paper, and he wrote what I feel is one of the most comprehensive, beautiful, powerful pieces that I beg you to look up and Google if you've never read it before, Letters from a Birmingham Jail. But I want to read you my favorite paragraph. And he says, "You may well ask, why direct action? Why sit-ins, marches, and so forth? Isn't negotiation a better path? You are quite right in calling for negotiation. Indeed, this is the very purpose of direct action. Nonviolent direct action seeks to create such a crisis and foster such a tension that a community which has constantly refused to negotiate is forced to confront the issue. It seeks so to dramatize the issue that can no longer be ignored. My citing the creation of tension as part of the work of nonviolent resistor may sound rather shocking, but I must confess that I'm not afraid of the word tension. I have earnestly opposed violent tension, but there is a type of constructive nonviolent tension which is necessary for growth. Just as Socrates felt that it was necessary to create a tension in the mind so that individuals could rise from the bondage of myths and half-truths to the unfettered realm of creative analysis and objective appraisal, so must we see the need for non-violent gadflies to create the kind of tension in society that will help men rise from the dark depths of prejudice and racism to the majestic heights of understanding and brotherhood. The purpose of our direct action program is to create a situation so crisis-packed that it will inevitably open the door to negotiation. I therefore concur with you in your call for negotiation. Too long has our beloved Southland been bogged down in a tragic effort to live in monologue rather than in dialogue. So when I think and reflect upon his use of the word tension, I fall in love with that. Because in that moment of inspiration and allowing himself to be the channel by which this genius, this humanity, this calling forth of equality was penned through him, he was channeling what we call the creative aspect of God. It wasn't self-serving. It was the beckoning and the invitational energy that says we are all created equal. And he was reflecting on the way in which that creative nature, the birthing of something new, tends to happen in the natural world. And it is through tension. Ask any mother in this room who's given birth. There's a whole lot of tension. Ask the caterpillar who has no idea what's happening in the panic. Can you imagine what molecularly must be going on as it's losing its identity to become something else through the creativity of tension? Imagine then that tension is a good thing, that it is the precursor for us to get in what he called that crisis place whereby we have no other choice but to relinquish our resistance and open our heart and our mind to a sense of allowing. And so what we do, whether you're conscious of it or not, is we invite and invoke, because we are creative beings, we invite crisis into our lives. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. And so if it wasn't for the bottoming out, if it wasn't for the fed upness, if it wasn't for that which we could no longer tolerate in this human skin suit, then you and I would not be evolving in the way in which we are designed to evolve, because we are a part of that creative energy. Now, does it have to be so drama-filled and so angst-ridden? No. Is it possible, as bizarre as it sounds, to have our crisis, but to understand and celebrate that what is happening is a birth? Can we look at the world of effect and see it from a rootedness that says, I don't need to fear this crisis. I don't need to see this as something out of my control, but I see it as a natural part of the evolution of what humanity must become. And because it must become that, then I understand that chaos and disorder and this seeming conflict of tension is a natural part of that process. But what is my role in this? My role, as it was for Martin Luther King Jr., was to show up and be a part of that nonviolent participatory energy in that growth tension. Do you see? So it's far too easy to sit on the sidelines and to just point. It's far too easy to simply criticize. But you and I are beckoned to become a part of this, which is calling us to a greater degree of our reality. Rise up. So I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating that even in the realm of my own colleague structure, that there are those who struggle with this. It's not our business. We're supposed to do all of our work in mind. Well, let me tell you. as we say, you need to treat and you need to move your feet. In other words, we do our work in mind, but we become a part of that participatory energy that is out there in that cutting edge sensibility, doing that work consciously, not fighting against something, because every single thing that you enter into with a destructive fighting against energy will burn you out. But when you march into something with a vision and a knowing, how do you have a knowing? From experience and from doing the work. Look at that banner. That is our theme. Knowing our infinite value. How do you ever get to a place of knowing something? Through experience. How do you have an experience? By being willing to use the tension of the mystery and the uncomfortableness to move you into different arenas that you are not stagnant and not fearful of. How do you do that unless you say yes to the way in which that creative energy, that creative mind, that which is the world in and of itself in the capsule of your own body is beckoning you to participate in? In this new year, in this era, in this time, it is unacceptable for me. I can't speak for you, but it is unacceptable for me to not do my part. It is unacceptable for me to stand before you week after week and to preach or teach or give some kind of oratory that does not have action substance interwoven with it. People do not want to hear a sermon, they want to see a sermon. And what I say about myself is what I say is the calling for every single person in this room. It is no accident that 2017 has been designed for a year to be focused on values. And what was extraordinary yesterday as our pledgers came forth for their intention-setting seminar is I spent hours in the beginning focusing on what is your values. Because if you can't name them, if you can't say, this is important to me, this is what I stand for. If you can't do that, and then look at all of the actions and all of the thoughts that are misaligned with that value, then you and I have no opportunity to course correct and to evolve and to grow as we are designed to do. So it isn't enough to hold them vaguely in your mind. They have to be written down. They have to be designed. There has to be a missional statement that says, this is who I am, so that when people ask you, what do you believe? Who are you? What do you stand for? That you can say, I am a person who values spirituality and philanthropy and global education. And I do that through selfless service and the way in which I give back to the world. That's who I am. You have to be able to say and articulate what your vision is. You have to be able to say and know and adhere to what your values are. Because I'll tell you, if we don't, I'll include that, if we don't, if in my Assemblies of God background, if we backslide, then that tension then becomes the unproductive use of that tension. Because that tension then translates itself into shame. And any of us who live in the energy of shame are missing out on the gifts of who and what we are. And so this beginning month, January, historically, has always been about revisiting, what is this philosophy about? Our founder, Ernest Holmes, there are many people. We have so many people who come through this building that have no idea who Ernest Holmes is. He's the founder of a philosophy called the science of mind by which we adhere to. It's not a philosophy that is endeared only to him, but he, like so many others, so many of the transcendentalists in North America in that Renaissance age of questioning, all the way from Ralph Waldo Emerson to Emma Curtis Hopkins to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, who started the Unity movement, to Mary Baker Eddy, to anyone who looked beyond the structure of what they were told God was and begin to question those things and begin to synthesize Eastern, Western understanding and began to understand that there was something greater, that God wasn't just a distant, separate entity, but that it was everything. And that if it was everything, then it was me. Was radical. It was radical. Today, not so much. But even though it's not radical today, we still struggle and don't adhere to it. Because I tell you, if we were as enthralled and devoted to that ideology as Ernest Holmes, our founder, was, and so many of his forebears, because it was so radical, we would be living differently. We would not be accepting a marginalization of self, because we would know the reference of what we are. And so every January, customarily, again, it has been to return to this book that I think all of us should have. And it's not difficult. When you really open it up with a pure intent and you begin to understand the power of mind and the power that is you and the connection and what we are, it becomes thrilling. It becomes compelling. And it becomes a reminder of the fact that your life has meaning and purpose. And in the beginning, there are what I like to call preambles. 4 preambles that sort of pretty much explain everything about what the metaphysical interpretation of consciousness and spirituality is all about. And the first preamble in there is that God is not person or gender. That it's energy. It's life. And because it's energy and it's life, it is boundless. It is in and through all things. It is the very backbone, the essence of everything that is explosive in its genius and its wisdom. And guess what? It is you. It is you. The thing itself is beyond definition. And when was the last time, I love the word awe. Because when was the last time you were in awe? Because if we were paying attention, we would be in awe every day. Because we would look around and we would go, my God, look at the genius. Look at the synergy. Look at the interconnectedness. Look at the way in which that which is God is life is expressing and all of these things. I would begin to look at this skin suit, and I would stop condemning it so much, and I would spend more time in the reverence and the awe by the way in which its mechanics are working that I don't even have to manage or control. But boy, I sure got to control and manage what you think of me or what somebody else thinks of me. I'm not in awe. And so the thing itself is the thing that we must accept. It is the intelligence at hand. It is there all of the time and in all ways. It's called mind. It's called spirit. It's called life. It's called causation. It is beyond and yet not beyond our grasp. It feels paradoxical. We are in it, but we don't have all of it. We are absorbed by it, but it is not fully absorbed by us. Beyond, in that it is so big within, and that whatever we grasp at it, we are it to the extent that we can grasp it. I am the thing itself to the degree that I own it. You are the infinite potentiality to the degree that you say yes to it. To the commitment and the reverence by which you are in awe of it. He says in the beginning of the textbook, we shall never encompass God, and yet we shall always be in and of God. That deserves some awe time. That deserves some pause. I was talking to one of my mentors, and the typical definition of metaphysical has always been beyond the physical. But beyond isn't actually the full definitive definition of meta, because it also means with and alongside. So that which is the metaphysical understanding of God is also with in, alongside, and beyond all measurement. And so I get to marvel at that. I get to see that. I get to understand and let that which is the creativity be through me. So yesterday in those values, I said, I got 3 B's for you. One of the ways that you and I can be in harmony with these values is, number 1, to be bold. What does being bold require of us? To let go of the petty, to let go of the grievance, to let go of the shame, to let go of the documentation and the labeling and the way in which we've looked upon ourselves and other people. To look at what possibility is, to look at ourselves as creative energy and go, if I'm creative energy, then that creative energy knows no bounds. It knows no history. It doesn't care about my history. It's only directive. And if I am to be bold, then I must throw out all precedents. I must throw out all grievance and self-judgment. I must throw all of it out in order for me to begin to move into a level of boldness and to begin to prove this principle of God as me, through me, always. I have to prove that. I get to prove that. It is my privilege. That's what your life, my life is all about, is to prove that. Nothing more. It isn't how big of a house can I get. It isn't how many things I can acquire. It isn't how rich I can become. It's about how much am I deeply rooted in the depth of understanding that I am a walking, breathing vehicle of infinite creativity that is waiting for me to say yes. So the thing itself must be accepted by me. So we get to look at, how do I be bold with that? Next week, there will be more than 500,000 women marching, and those who love them, alongside, hopefully not to march against something, but to march for the emancipation and the celebration of their equality and their power and their respect. Cities all across our country. In fact, in Atlanta, our own Baton Bob is leading the march here in Atlanta. We are called upon to look at the things that we say no to. You know, taking a group to Bali in September, and somebody yesterday said, oh, I can't do that. I want to go. I can't do that. I want to go. I can't do that. I want to go. I can't do that. And I was like, stop! Go! I said, put the deposit down. The flyers are out there. Put the deposit down. And you watch. The rest of it will show up. But it's not going to show up if you don't put the deposit down. I want to go, but I can't. I want to go, but I can't. So, Ernest said, we are the chemist in the laboratory of the infinite. Chemist in the laboratory of the infinite. What then shall we create? You know? So I have to look at this for myself as well. And for this year, I wanted to be bold. So I decided to give back 1/3 of my salary. Because I want to pay those guarantors off, because I love them guarantors. But I want to amp that up. And you know what? By doing that, you watch. A vacuum's going to be created and it will be filled. But you see, I've got to be able to stand here and prove that to you. And I don't say that to boast. I say that to teach. So that you will get it. The second B, be accountable. Be accountable. Follow through with your vision. Follow through with what you say you're going to do. And every single one of us need help with that. So we have accountability partners to our left and to our right who are asking to participate and collaborate and co-create in your victory if you will let them. And if you don't have an accountability partner, if you don't have a prayer partner, if you don't have a practitioner, get one. Because this is the year where accountability will lead you into territory that has been going, where have you been? And the third B is be love. Because in all of this, what is the point? If we can't understand and know the inclusivity of what we're talking about, because as I evolve, so does everyone else, because we are one. Let me share this. Martin Luther King, Christmas Eve, one of the last months before he was shot, in Ebenezer Baptist Church across town, he said, if we are to have peace on earth, he told his congregation, we must develop a world perspective. Yes, as nations and individuals, we are interdependent. It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. So if we are not love, if we are resistant, if we are condemning in any way, we're really only damaging self. And so this be bold, be accountable, be love is all predicated on the acceptability that the thing itself is what you are. And the second part, the preamble, you'll get the third and fourth in the next weeks, but the second one, the way that it works is by recognizing that it's there and accepting it. The only way that it will work in your arena of life is through your demonstration. How is expansion going to work through you? How are you going to prove that? Not, again, from a boastful, braggadocious way, but how are you going to do it? Because it's your soul's assignment. Oh my God, we have so much to accept in terms of the gifts that are already fully present. He said, we take the good. Ernest Holmes, we take the good wherever we can find it. I'll take some over here. I'll take some over here. I don't marginalize my good nor portion it out. In other words, if you give me good, then I'll give you good. But if you don't give me good, give the good and I receive the good from wherever I take it. I don't say, so they gave me my good, I'm going to be nicer to them. No. If everything, as MLK Jr. said, is interrelated, we take the good wherever we can find it, making it our own insofar as we understand it. The realization that good is universal. Good is universal. I want to tell you that this philosophy that you participate in, that you are visiting or are a member of or subscribe to, this is a philosophy that teaches this good is universal. I grew up in a religion that told me that that wasn't. That we had the answer and those over there didn't. How can that which is the thing itself, how can that which is life hold or withhold itself from any beingness, because all is life? And so there is no one way. There is no one religion. There is no one thing that has carte blanche on that which is God, because it is universal and good is universal, and we open our arms and celebrate all paths and understandings of what they revere and worship God to be. And we celebrate that. And he goes on to say, and that as much good as any individual is able to incorporate into his life is theirs to use. Again, as much as you can receive is yours and mine to use. And that's what constitutes this philosophy. You know, he didn't make this up. What he did was, like so many of his forebears, was he tapped into that which is already known. He assembled Eastern and Western philosophy, and he just simply put in there a template by which you and I can live. And there are many templates by which we can live. And what I love and what I've come to the understanding is that this works for me right now. Did you notice I said right now? This works for me right now. And as it works for me right now, I'm going to revere it. I'm going to study it. I'm going to apply it. And I'm also going to open myself up to realize that there is so much more. If I'm living in infinite potentiality, then my God, I want to be in the awe of all paths and what they have to teach me. This is our year to not entertain our infinite value, but to know it. And I call upon you from everything that is holy and sacred to say that not only do you matter, but if you looked at solution as a worldwide puzzle, then that puzzle, that solution, will be incomplete until you sign up and you say yes to being a part of the change and the evolution of the rebirthing and the awakening of this planetary good. You must understand that your life matters so much. Your significance matters so much. And that it's time. Isn't it wonderful that it's finally time? Isn't it wonderful that the tension has gotten to such a degree in order to let us know? Thank you, Martin Luther King Jr., and so it is. Hi, I'm David Ault, and I simply want to say thanks. Thanks for taking the time to watch our broadcast here at Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. We have a vision, and that vision is to reawaken all to their spiritual magnificence. And one of the ways that we are able to do that is through this very medium of broadcasting. So if you got anything out of this, if you felt in any way inspired, or if something spoke to you directly, then I extend an invitation to you to become a part of our family by donating. And there are many ways in order for you to be able to do that. One is to simply go to our website at slca.com, and there you will find all different kinds of prompts that will help you support what it is that we are doing here in Atlanta. One way is to become a pledger. That means that you decide on a monthly basis that you are going to help us with this vision. Another way is to donate through our management system called Fellowship One, another through PayPal, and another even easier way is on your cell phone. You can do what's called text to tithe, and that number is 404-796-7030. Again, thank you so much for your support, and I invite you to come back weekly to see what it is that we're up to. Blessings.